Thank you, everybody, for being here today for our first keynote. I'd like to introduce Dr. Carlonda Reilly. She joined Kennametal Incorporated as Vice President and Chief Technology Officer in September of 2018. As if that wasn't impressive enough, as a C-suite executive, she reports directly to the President and CEO of the company. And Dr. Reilly leads the research, development, and engineering worldwide at her company. Additionally, she's also a director on the W.L. Gore and Associates Incorporated Board of Directors and is the chairman of the board directors for Kennametal Shared Services Private Limited. Our team had been doing a lot of research on which kinds of speakers and who we would want to be at this event. And our team actually came across an article that was released back in November of 2020 in Industry Matters called ACS Boss Talk. And of course, Dr. Reilly was featured. And it's a really great article. If you haven't read it, you should. And some of the things that she had talked about was, what makes her a successful leader, who has influenced her leadership style, and so many more things. And I'll admit, we all fangirled just a little bit over her because in our mind, she is exemplifying what a strong and female leader should be. And we all felt that she was really someone to aspire to. And so without further ado, I will go ahead and hand it over to you. So Dr. Reilly, you take it away.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Christine. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to ACS, the Indiana section. And you'll see in a couple of minutes why it's a little near and dear to my heart. And so I've been asked to talk about what I've learned from my STEM career and why I would do it all over again. So I'll get right into it. So I do work for Kennametal, and Kennametal, what we do is we are a tooling and wear solutions company. And so we do a lot with design and material science and materials in order to develop tooling solutions for a variety of industries. So for example, if you have flown on a Boeing jet, which I'm sure we all have, the actual engines of the Boeing jet most likely utilized our tooling in order to make the engine and the engine components, because you really need to have high precision tooling in order to make those jet components. Or if you've ridden in a GM or a Ford car or automobile, most likely the engine components were machined by tooling that Kennametal has made over the years. So a lot of science and technology, chemistry, material science goes into what we, and engineering goes into what we do here at Kennametal. So let's get on with it. Just an introduction to myself and why I am so excited to talk to you there, or the Indiana section. I am a Hoosier at heart. I was born and raised in Terre Haute, Indiana. And matter of fact, I was just there over the weekend, attending a funeral. And I love Indiana, and it's always near and dear to my heart. So there in Terre Haute, I attended a elementary school, Warren Elementary School. It no longer exists. It's now an apartment building where I grew up. I kind of grew up in the other side of town, if you will, or the wrong side of the tracks or whatever. I think they were the right side of the tracks, but I think sometimes people talked about it that way. Very proud of that fact. I also went to Chauncey Rose Middle School. Chauncey Rose no longer exists either, so that school has been torn down. So anyway, I still stand as a testament of a graduate from both Warren Elementary School and Chauncey Rose. Gave me a really good foundation. Terre Haute North Vigo High School is still there, and I'm very proud of the fact that I did graduate in 1986 as the valedictorian of a class of about 520. So very proud to be a North Patriot, very proud to be an Indiana Hoosier at heart. So I decided I wanted to study chemical engineering in my junior year in high school, and was taking science class, liked science, loved chemistry, liked math. And so I ended up doing a paper. We were supposed to do a research paper on any topic that we wanted to, science related, in science class in my junior year. And it was on fractional distillation of crude oil. And that was by Carlonda Russell. That's my maiden name, as of April 1985. And so I did do that. And I fell in love with that. I fell in love with what a chemical engineer would do. They make stuff. They use chemistry and math, and they bring that together and they make stuff. So that's what I decided I wanted to do when I went to school. So, after my junior year, I said, hey, I'm going to apply to a variety of colleges. And I really only applied to 2 colleges, but I really wanted to apply to one. And that was really my first lesson as I was applying to colleges in diversity and inclusion in STEM education. I wanted to apply to Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology there in Terre Haute. A great school, great engineering school. My grandfather was a janitor at Rose-Hulman for 40 years. And, he would always say, maybe you'll grow up and get to go to Rose-Hulman. And he never he never lived long enough to see me go to college. But I really wanted to go to Rose-Hulman and live in my hometown. It's an awesome school, but at the time they weren't accepting women. It was not a college. It was not a co-ed college. It was only a male college. And they were not making exceptions to even give applications to women. And so there my fate was somewhat sealed, that I was not going to be a Hoosier, or at least live in my hometown forever, because I could not go to Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology. They since then have gone co-ed since, I think, in the early 90s. And I was really happy to hear about that. And whenever I go home to visit, many times I will go to the campus, and I love to visit the campus. It's a great campus and a great school. So my choices ended up being Purdue, fantastic school there in West Lafayette, or Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And here's another lesson in diversity and inclusion. One of the areas where, you really have to know in your heart that you can really achieve something. As I was applying to MIT, I had a classmate, and I'm not sure why he said that, given the fact that I was, had a 4.0 in high school, and I was doing really well in classes. And I'm not sure why he said this, but he told me that if I got into MIT and if I made it through my first semester, he would be the first to shake my hand. And so I always remembered that, I probably kind of packed it away somewhere, but, I think in the heart of me and who I was, I knew I liked chemistry. I liked math. I got into MIT. I was very excited about that. And so I did decide to go there. That's where I ended up doing my undergrad. So I'm glad that I did not listen to or get scared away from, what was in my heart. And it turned out to be a really good decision for me. And so maybe that's one learning is really just kind of have a belief in yourself and in terms of your capabilities and what you can do. And, there will be naysayers along the way. But I think you can overcome those things. So when I got to school, I worked hard, learned, had fun, and networked. And if you notice, the fun and networked are in small letters. Some people, I think, some students go in, they want to have fun, they want to network, and those are the big letters. And I do say going through school, working hard, and, having that work ethic and learning, very important in school, but also having fun is important. And then networking was very important for me because I did spend some time in our career office at times, and I wanted to get a summer internship, and that was a great way to learn. And so at one time in October, I was in our career development office, and one of the leaders there said, hey, I got someone I want you to meet. And I met with, the guy's name was Henry Aleko. I remember his name, from Mobil Oil. And I sat down with him and I told him about my experiences in high school. I remember I still had blue jeans on and a blue jean jacket. I wasn't even ready for an interview. And he hired me on the spot for a summer internship. So I got that summer internship, and I did all of my summer internships with Mobil Oil while I was a undergrad at MIT. And that's where I really learned, having that job, and then also loving my classes at MIT, that I wanted to do research. I wanted to go. I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to go into academics, or because I liked the aspect of teaching, but I also really liked industry. And so I thought that I really wanted to go into industry, and I got to see what researchers do, and I got to see what leaders do in R&D groups. And I started to formulate as early as 19 that I wanted to lead a large R&D organization. And that was through my experiences at Mobil. And so I went through MIT, because I wanted to go into R&D. I knew I wanted to get a PhD eventually. So I applied to and got into University of Minnesota, University of Wisconsin, Berkeley, and then University of Delaware. And because of the topic that I was really interested in, I ended up going to the University of Delaware for my grad school education, and got a master's and a PhD there. And then from there, looked at a variety of different, I knew I wanted to go into industry by that point, and looked at a variety of different companies. And I really had the opportunity to go to work for DuPont, and that's where I started my PhD career. And so I ended up spending 22 to 23 years at DuPont in a variety of roles of R&D, in operations or manufacturing, and business leadership, marketing leadership. And then before I ended up having the opportunity to come to Kennametal. So now talking about the things that I learned over my career, and this is spanning throughout DuPont, spanning throughout even, I continue to learn now, and I'm in my early 50s at Kennametal. I've had a career now for 26 years. First of all, I think it's important for anyone to begin to develop a vision and a belief that you can accomplish it. And so, I think that when you go into a company or you go into any kind of role, you might have the vision. I want to become the CEO. I do think that that's a great, it's great to have that kind of vision. Not everybody can be a CEO of a company. There may be other ways that you can get there. Maybe you want to be a researcher and continue to be a researcher for the rest of your, pardon me on that, be a researcher for your career and develop that way. And you just love the science, and you never want to go away from the science. Perhaps you want to lead an R&D organization. Maybe you want to go to academics and become a tenured professor. Maybe you haven't figured all that out, and you just kind of know the areas that you want. You have to really have a vision for, I think, certain parts of your life, and because if you're not sure where you're aiming towards, I think it's hard for not only yourself, but for others to help you get to that point. So when you develop a vision, you can look at what do you like to do? What are your strengths? And then in one way of doing this, you can also learn what others do, learn how others have done it. And lifelong learning is I think a big piece of any career as you shape the things that you want to do. Now, many times when a person comes into a company in particular, they want to just kind of take this road that you see on the screen here, and they want to run, and they want to run to the top kind of pretty quickly. And I'm not saying that can't happen, but I think that the typical career, you kind of start off with the baby steps. You start learning, you understand what is this company about? What do they do? What is this university about? What do they do? Watch others, begin to develop kind of what you could do and what you like to do, and what you're good at, and develop and continue to develop what you're good at. And then what you'll find is you'll take that road, and it's going to become, you're going to progress down that road. You're going to get opportunities. You might have to climb, some hills, but you're eventually going to get there, and that's fantastic. I think that you just have to believe that you can achieve that, and do know there will be naysayers. There will be those people that that say, hey, even if you could do that, if you end up getting your first promotion, I'll be the first to shake your hand. I hope that you don't have a lot of those people in your lives. There hopefully will be more people who will support you, who will be champions, who will be friends along the way, and teammates, to achieve the goal, as you also work and help your teammates also to achieve their goals as well. So that would be the first thing I say: develop a vision and a belief that you can accomplish it. I can't tell you how many times I talk to people in organizations, and I actually am mentoring some folks right now who've been in their careers after 7 years, 10 years even. And I asked them, well, what do you like to do? I don't know. What do you think you might want to do? I don't know. And I mean, it's really hard for me to help that person. I can give them feedback on what I think their strengths are. But at the end of the day, if you're telling me I don't know what I want to do, I have no idea. I wonder just how much do you even want to do something different, or if you want to have an opportunity. It's always great to be able to talk to somebody who really at least can tell me what their interests are or what they might want to do, and then we can talk about how can we find opportunities to let you demonstrate the skill sets in that area. And so that would be one thing that I would really encourage you to do is really develop a vision. It doesn't have to be the end vision, but it can be, some next steps type of vision, or it can be a vision of what I think I might like to do, and I'd like to try this or try that. So just keep that in mind as you progress. I think in also a career, what I've learned, there are differences in mentors and there are differences in sponsors. Do you know the difference? There is a difference. And I used to think that my mentor was my sponsor. And sometimes your mentor can be your sponsor, but sponsors or mentors can sometimes be outside of your company or the place that you work, or outside of your organization. A sponsor, though, is probably somebody that's in your organization that knows of your capabilities. Because if you take a look at it, a mentor is a trusted advisor. A mentor is someone who can kind of give you some navigation help. They answer questions. And quite frankly, you need to trust your mentor enough so that you can ask questions that you may think are stupid questions. And I would say no question is a stupid question, but you do have to be careful. You want that person to be a trusted advisor. You go to a mentor, you don't, you want to be able to be honest with them. And maybe that's a person in your organization. If that's great, if you have a trusted advisor in your organization, that's great. Sometimes that person can be outside of your company. I still mentor people from DuPont who call me on a regular basis and ask me career advice. I mentor people, I might be in technology or R&D. I mentor people in supply chain. I mentor people who are in the business, and they come and they ask me questions, and I try to provide a safe space for them to ask the questions and get advice that I can give. A champion is someone, though, who can influence on your behalf, or they can help you to your next destination. They are someone who might be have influence within an organization. There's someone who's seen you work, who knows your who might know your specific skill set and capability. They're the ones that can really speak for you in a room somewhere where people are making decisions. And I've tried to be a champion for folks as well. And I can tell you, at their various points in my career, I've had mentors who were not trusted advisors because I went to them and they weren't necessarily, they didn't keep my questions, they didn't keep them confidential. So I learned that lesson, very distinctly. And I made sure that when I had a mentor, I could really trust I trusted their advice. I trusted them with, my concerns and things like that. And then I also had champions, but there are times where my champions, all of them like retired or something in a matter of months, and I had no one. And that was a kind of a difficult time. And you're always learning and talking, and, they call it networking. What I like to call is just active learning, just getting to know people and understanding what they do and what their capabilities are. And then that's how you begin to learn, and can develop within and of yourself, those things that you like, the things that that you can do well, the things that you say, hey, I think I could do that too. And so if your sponsorship kind of dries up, you're always meeting people and you're always kind of doing that, what I would call networking, but not networking for networking's sake, really networking to learn and to get to know others. So that's number two. My number three thing would say is that whatever you end up doing at any point in your career, learn and improve as much as you can in your current job. I can tell you, there have been some of the naysayers in my career that have said, oh, well, you get in a job and the next thing you want is you look at your next role. You've got an eye on your next role. And quite frankly, that's not been my heart at all. My heart has always been, I want to get in a job and I want to do the very best I can, and I want to learn. And that's how I approach it. And I think that it's really good to have that kind of mentality. Because when you get into a job, you're going to get planted into like a planter here, and you're going to grow, and you're going to be these little flowers, right? You're going to gain experience. And I'm hoping, and as I always think about, becoming all you can be within that framework that you are. Be a positive contributor wherever you are. And then, you can always find a way to be a positive contributor and to also lead from your pot. You don't have to have people reporting to you. You don't have to be a manager. Some of the most effective leaders in an organization, some of the most impactful leaders in an organization have never had people report to them. They are influencers. They're great team players, but they can step forward and also take on responsibility. They're flexible. And so the next thing you know is that when you're doing all these things, you're growing, you're gaining experience, you're becoming all you can be. That's what I call just blooming where you are planted. And I think that doing that, believe it or not, sometimes you might be in a role or situation that it's not really your best, the best role, but you're still learning, you're still meeting people. You can bloom where you are planted, and you can take those opportunities to show those other skills other than the technical skills that you might be there to show your other skills in order to gain more and more experience. I have to tell you, I've been at this now, 26 years. Being in my early 50s right now, I know that I am a much better leader now. I am a much better leader, manager, mentor, champion now, not because I'm CTO, but because of my experiences that I can help, share with others. and how I can help others work through some of their issues and needs in their own careers. Much better now than I was when I was early 30s. And I can tell you, I probably would tell you that when I was in my 30s, or early 30s, I would probably tell you I knew more then than I would tell you I know now. So it's kind of incredible. So there's a balance of confidence, but then there's a balance of just take the time to bloom where you're planted, learn as much and improve as much as you can where you're planted, so that you'll be ready for something bigger as it comes along. So my number 4 point, and I've got 5 points here. My number 4 point are the 3 doors. Aren't they wonderful? Look at them. They're 1, 2, 3. So there are 3 different type of doors. There's probably others, but here are the major doors that I've found in my career. And I'm just going to give you some advice on the doors that you might come across. So I'm probably talking to a lot of folks who may not have watched a lot of Star Trek or Star Trek: The Next Generation. When I was coming along, when Star Trek: Next Generation was on, Captain Picard would walk, and the door would just automatically open and then shut. And it was like the wildest thing. And you might find that you have a door, you're working in your role, and then this door opens, and you might find that it just opens automatically, and it's great. And you have to make decisions, and you need to, consult with not only yourself, your trusted advisors, perhaps a sponsor, should you walk through that door, because not every door is, there may be some trap doors on the other side. So there are opportunities that I've had several times in my career that kind of came up. And there was, maybe one time where I just knew it wasn't the right opportunity, and I did not take it. And quite frankly, it was because of moving to it required moving to an area of the country that had some racial tensions. And I'm an African American. I did not want to subject my family to that area. So we decided not to move. And that was just a personal decision. I could have, gotten a career advancement by making that move. It was early in my career, and I did not take that opportunity. I figured it wasn't worth at least what I felt was kind of putting my family at risk there. And so I did not make that move. But there have been several others where the door is just open, and I've been really grateful to walk through it, and I've had great opportunities in doing that. The next door is what I would call the unlocked or slightly ajar door. Those are the doors where you might have to, try the doorknob and then, kind of push the door open, or you might have to kind of push the door open if it's slightly ajar. And those are the times in your career where you might have to ask questions, where you might have to go and apply for a job that's on a job board in your company, or might have to talk to people and make it known that you're very interested in the job or another. I know there have been times in my career. For example, I'm in technology, I've been in R&D, but I felt like I wanted to be more of a well-rounded R&D leader. And for me, I wanted to have an experience in the business. So about maybe 5 or 6 years into my career, as I was having conversations with leaders, and as I was learning more about what a business leader did, I talked about wanting to have an experience at leading a business or working in a business. And I took a couple of steps. I was a technology leader for a business. Then I became a marketing leader. And then I actually ran a business for a couple of years. And that was a really great experience for me to learn about customers, really driving customer focus, learning about business finances. And I took various courses in order to prepare myself. So when I got that opportunity, I kind of opened that door and I walked through, and I really enriched my own learning as a leader by having that opportunity in my career. So you have to really be looking out for those times where you might be able to take a door and, you might have to slightly push it open. It's not going to just open up for you. And you might have to figure out how to make your desires known and do the things before you actually walk through the door in order to even be able to access that door. And so I would call those the unlocked or slightly ajar doors. And then there's the door number 3. That is the locked door. Now, sometimes I have known people who have tried to, be like the police and, break down the door and, put a battering ram against the door. Probably in the same company or area organization that you're in may not be the best strategy. I think that those types of things are kind of far and few in between. When you end up doing that, I think there's some memory that's left over in the organization, and it's probably not a good thing. So you can find ways to perhaps get it unlocked, working, like I said, with mentors and with your sponsors. You might need to take some other doors before you get to this door that would open for you. Maybe there are doors outside of where you are, outside of the company, outside of the area. Maybe it's locked for a good reason, locked to you for a good reason. So you have to, really understand that. And I think as you take more and more opportunity, as you gain more and more experience, I think you'll understand how to navigate when you do come up to locked doors. And quite frankly, I'm going to be very honest with you. There have been times in my career that I've come up to a locked door, and I wanted a position, really felt like I deserved it. Had gotten all the experiences that I pretty much needed, but that door didn't open for me. And time after time, it wasn't opening for me. And I actually went to a mentor, a trusted advisor who happened to be outside of my organization, who knew something about the certain situation. And I asked point blank, what do you think? And that it was their assessment as well that I don't think this door is going to open. That was their understanding. That was all of my understanding. So I did. I found another door outside of that organization, and I took that other door and was very, very happy to have taken it. So you do come up to those situations sometimes, and it takes, I think, to be thoughtful. The one thing that I would say is, of the 3 doors, don't be too hasty to go through any various door that comes along, whether it opens automatically for you or whether it's locked or whether you just have to kind of push it open. You never know what's on the other side. It could be great on the other side. It could be a door that gets you to your next opportunity, or it could be, a trap door. It could be something that's a dead end. And I'll be honest with you again. I've had a few people leave my organization in the last year or so, they went to other companies, and I can say 3 people that has happened to, and within a year, 2 of them have come back, and they're in the organization, and I think we were very happy to bring them back. They're excellent folks. So it's not always the grass is greener on the other side of the door. And if you get the experiences, if you learn everything, you apply these principles that I'm talking about, and if you're getting all the information that you need to get from, your advisors, your mentors, you can make a rational decision on which door you're looking at and what to do about it. So that brings me to point number 5, which I think is an important point for all of us. And it's just around enjoyment. Have fun. And this is, the pictures here are silly, but it's not a silly kind of have fun. It's really nice to enjoy your job. I know people in my organization right now, they're spending a lot of time on the road. They're traveling. they're, practically living at some of our plant sites, and they're away from their family, but they love what they do so much that it's not a burden to them. And, we have people who are very dedicated, and I just love working with them. I have the greatest organization here. And I love working and I love doing what I do, and I have a passion for it. And I think that it is important to have enjoyment with what you do, because I do think that you can do your best work when you're really enjoying it, and you're taking the time to learn and celebrate the wins and be with your teammates. If you're going through some hardships, but then also be there to celebrate and have fun when you have the successes. I think it's so important throughout your career. And if you're not having fun day after day, week after week, then yeah, it is time to take a look at your doors and your options, and what you might be able to do next, and to really think about what you might be able to do next, and what would be good for you, your family, and all the other choices that you might have to make along the way. So those are the 5 key lessons I've learned throughout my career. Develop a vision and a belief that you can accomplish it. Get a mentor and a sponsor wherever you are. Learn and improve as much as you can in your current job. So that's the concept of, bloom where you're planted. Remember the 3 doors. Don't be too hasty to walk through, the doors, and then to have fun. Those are the things that some nutshell things that I've learned along the way in my 26-year career in industry. And then finally, why would I do it all over again? Well, when the right door came along, I felt like I was really ready for it. So when I got a call from a recruiter that said, would you like to look at this opportunity? This is an opportunity for the chief technology officer of this great company. You have all the skill sets, you have the experience. I took a gulp and I said, yeah, I really want to look at this. And, I was ready to interview, and I was ready for this challenge. And I've been at Kennametal for 3 years and working on a lot of great things and innovations, and making a difference in our world. So that's why I've enjoyed my STEM career, and why I would do it again. And all the ups and downs and the learnings that I've had, I would definitely do that again, to get to the point where I am right now, where I'm having a lot of fun and hopefully helping a lot of people in their careers as well. So with that, Christine, that's all I really had prepared to share.
Yeah, that was wonderful. I really resonate with a lot of the things you said. Mentorship's been something that's been talked about a lot in our local section. I'm really happy to hear that. I think that networking has been a very consistent theme that we've heard so far at Predict. So I'd like to go ahead and address some of these questions we're getting. The first one is, do you have advice or suggestions for someone who knows what they enjoy, but doesn't really see a position that encompasses all of the things that they enjoy?
Well, it really depends upon what you mean, all of the things that they enjoy. But if you can learn about various positions, for example, if you are good in technology, but you also like business and, really have a knack for business, there is a role called new business development, where you've got to have some technical capability, but then you also really have to apply some good business discipline to perhaps develop a new area, a new application, or a new business for where you are. There are new business development people in academia, at universities. There's new business development people in industry. So I think that that there are ways to find jobs that bring together different skill sets more than you might think. And if you like technology, but then also if you like to play basketball, you might need to go into an industry that mixes sports medicine or something with, the technical fields, what is it, kinesiology with, with sports or something like that. I think there's always ways to combine at least 2, maybe 3 interests. Now, if you have like a bunch of different interests, you might want to consider, well, where's my primary area? Here are the 2 or 3 areas that I really excel. And I'd be surprised that you couldn't fashion or find an industry or a role that couldn't take advantage of that.
Yeah, that's great.
There's a lot of different things to do out there, a lot.
Yeah. What are the key points you think are necessary when choosing between an academic postdoc versus industry?
Yeah, and quite frankly, we gave we actually lost a couple of candidates to a postdoc experience. I think that particularly if you want to teach or if you want to go into academics, certainly I think a postdoc would help, but going into industry helps as well. Really getting that practical experience, and then for a couple of years, and then if you want to go into academics, that also helps as well, and even vice versa. I think we just hired someone who was a professor at one of the local universities in our powder and metallurgy group. So I'm always happy to have those exchanges. But if you're looking at making a decision, I would think that if you wanted to look in a different science area or an expanded science area, go into more depth in that science area, you might want to go into being a postdoc. That's a great way of expanding your fundamental science areas. If you get into academics or if you get into industry, you might end up doing a little bit more practical R&D. So if you really want to stay more fundamental, you can, for a couple more years, a postdoc would probably be a good place for you to go as opposed to industry. But if you're, ready to get out and you think you might like industry, I think it's a great way to get, there are a lot of opportunities out there right now to really understand everything you've learned in graduate school. Do you like to apply? Do you like to see new products get out in the marketplace? Then that's when I would say, yeah, I'm ready to start my industry career, and apply everything that I've learned into industry. So it really depends. If you want to really continue to go deep into that fundamentals, I think, the postdoc probably would weigh a little heavier than industry.
Yeah. We just got a really good question. Do you have any advice for self-advocacy without sounding pompous? Yeah, when do you self-advocate to management?
So I'm looking over here at my, I think it's probably in my home library. It's not here at my work library. There's a book, and I forget who writes the book, but it's called How to Toot Your Own Horn Without Blowing It. And it's something like that, tooting your own horn without blowing it. And so you know what that means, right? It's like beep, beep, as opposed to boop, 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 I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And, quite frankly, when I meet people who are blowing their own horn, you get kind of resistant to that. Because a lot of times in industry, your work, can speak for itself. But in that book, it talks a little bit about making your elevator speech, talking about yourself in a way that talks about the things that you've learned as opposed to what I did, the things that the team did, and then what you learned in the team. I mean, getting to the point of talking about what a team did and then, how I contributed to that, but not taking all the credit for it. I think that, it is very, very, very suspicious if you start talking about something that happened in a team and that you did it all. That's very suspicious. So I think that, humility and humbleness is always a good thing, but really think about what you did bring to the table. Think about all the great things that, maybe happened around it. And then very succinctly be able to say, hey, this great thing happened. We worked as a team. One of the things I'm very proud of that I contributed to was X, Y, and Z. And I, I really worked very hard to support that. That's one way of tooting your own horn. What did you do to help the success of that team, but then not trying to take your own, all of the credit for it. That I can tell you right now, people see through that very quickly. It doesn't bode very well. At least for me, it doesn't bode very well, because I can tell you in industry, people ask people about people. And so if you're telling a person something about yourself that they're not hearing from others, that's kind of a no-no, right? You want to have a good credibility with teammates as well as with the leadership. And there's ways of talking about your contribution to something or how you stood out versus taking credit for, everything. And that's going to be found out anyway. So don't do it. So yeah, toot your own horn, don't blow it.
Do you have any suggestions for steps in early career professional in academia to better prepare for C-suite positions?
So you mean like a early stage professor?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if you started off as a professorship, that's a great way of kind of showing your entrepreneurial spirit, right? You're writing grants. You are, you're trying to get, funding. You're selling your ideas. You're selling your ideas to your grad students. I know when I was in grad school, I went to work for a great professor. He had a vision for what he wanted to do. He gave me a lot of leeway to develop my leadership skills. He wasn't always, putting his thumb on me. So you got skill sets of managing people, managing budgets. You're developing all of that. And maybe you want to go to a company after that and spend some time. You would probably enter in a company not as at the engineer level. You might actually be at a manager level because you've learned all those skills and you can work your way through the system. You might start your own company. I know several professors, certainly at MIT, I know have started their own companies and was the CEO of their own company. There are ways of getting kind of the business aspect of it, whether you officially get an MBA or you can take some business finance courses that really help you understand that aspect of it. So I think that in any career, you have to be looking for some of those open doors to areas that will help you learn and expand. And it may not always be A, B, C, D, E. It may be A prime. Maybe you'll skip to C, so keep your eyes open, learn as much as you can. And I think that you'll find those natural progressions. You'll find those natural doors to give you more and more exposure to the things that you want to do. And like I said, it's great to think that you want to do that. And maybe you can orchestrate some of that. Maybe those doors, you're going to have to open some doorknobs. But as you do that, as you learn, you'll find how you can, maneuver your way into exactly, kind of what you want to be. I never said I wanted to be a CTO of a company. In the C-suite. I never even thought that it was even possible. My goal that I had for myself was to be a technology leader or R&D leader of a larger organization, a couple hundred people. That was my goal. But as I learned more and more, I saw these other opportunities. And then, like I said, the door to come to Kennametal was more of a Star Trek tour for me.
So what advice would you give to somebody who is a research enthusiast? They're an undergraduate who's planning to apply to grad school, and they feel like they're a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
So I would say that I'm a generalist. Look, I'm a chemical engineer that has a really strong chemistry leaning. Um, and at DuPont, I certainly was more chemistry oriented, molecule kind of person. And then I got into polymers, and I ended up either leading projects or managing organization that was more polymer oriented. And so I learned a lot about polymers so that I could be a better leader there. And, I always had that process technology perspective from the engineering background. And so I worked in a variety of different industry for polymers, for products, titanium technologies. I ended up working in nylon and learning a lot about that with our ethylene copolymers business. So I got a wide variety of exposure to a lot of different technologies. And then I also worked, in titanium technology, that's the coatings business. So I have a lot of really good practical knowledge. And then I come to Kennametal, which is a materials company. It's more of a mechanical engineering company. And I think that the foundation, building a foundation and having a good foundation as a good technologist, certainly if you become a leader, you can begin to ask questions and understand or do research in areas that have some of the similar fundamentals, whether it's chemistry or material science. There are consistent things. If you really have that good foundation from a technical perspective, you can move into various areas. And if you want to be a researcher, maybe the steps are a little bit more gradual. I've known people who have done polymer like nylon and then ended up working in biochemistry in the end of their career. And if you have the will to do that, it is possible. It's a lot of self-learning and continuous learning, and you can make those changes if you have that will within you to do that.
Great. I think we have time for maybe one or two more. So could you discuss the value of a membership in a professional society like the ACS for helping you grow your network and skills for your career?
Yeah, so I'm sure you probably will hear from various people. I've heard, in other venues from various people. And as you meet people, you're always learning. You're always seeing what other people are doing. You're seeing what the possibilities are. There's not one, I wouldn't say there's one career that's the same. They all have their individual fingerprints on them. So the value of networking is you meet different people who've had different experiences. You're taking that all in so that you're becoming more of a well-rounded person, and you understand the possibilities, so that you're not always just grabbing. You're not just networking for the sake of networking. You're networking to understand people, to understand how to interact with people, because that's what's going to be required when you go into industry or into academics. You have to work with all kinds of people. So the more people that you meet, the more personalities that you get exposed to, the more that you're going to know how to handle those situations.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing that you said. I didn't realize until I did an internship recently that there's actually there's a goal, I guess, to the networking. It's not just making sure people know who you are. Like, you don't just want to show up to a meeting and just to say that you did that. And so I think that was a great point. So I think for our final question, we'll say, how does being a postdoc help when I'm aiming for an industry career over just starting an industry after grad school?
Yeah, so we just hired, within the last year or two, we've hired 2 postdocs. So I think that it really depends upon what your desire is. If, like I said, if you want to continue that, a little bit more fundamental, you want to kind of maybe lead a lab or something and get that exposure as a postdoc, that's fantastic. We hire people directly out of grad school. We hire people who are postdocs who are fantastic because they come in, they're very mature, and they hit the ground running. And in our additive area, we hired a postdoc from Virginia Tech just a couple years ago. So I know that, you know, in any company that I would belong to, and I think I could speak for many industry folks, that they, you know, we'll take all of these experiences because they bring a certain different type of value. It's really about where you've walked and all the experience that you have. And I want a diversity of people. I want people who've had that experience in postdoc. We have BS engineers and master's engineers who are doing research. We have, you know, PhDs who are doing research. I want them all, because I think they bring a different perspective to the problems that we're trying to solve in the industry. And I think all the smart technical leaders in industry would say the same thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here today. We can all give you a virtual round of applause. I know that I can definitely speak for a lot of people that it was very educational. I got a lot out of it. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I wish all the best to all of you on the phone. It's too bad we couldn't be more interactive. I love doing this type of thing. Good luck to all of you guys. Keep an open mind, and just remember, work hard, but also have fun.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you all for tuning in through Zoom or Woohova, whichever respective platform that you're on. Coming up next, we have our Women Chemists Committee panel. You don't need permission to be the change. We have a all-star lineup for that. And then coming in this evening, we have an alternate career panel, as well as our LGBTQ allyship workshop. And we'll finish off the night with our networking event hosted by Nobache. So we hope that you'll stick around. I know that we've got a lot of great people still left to hear from today. So thank you all for tuning in, and I hope to see you at our round table. Thank you.